Hey YouTube friends, welcome to another week of yapping. And this week I didn't do a lot because I fell sick over the weekend, this past weekend. And I spent the whole week just recovering, sleeping a lot, eating my meds, and I didn't go to the gym. So it was basically just trying to recover from a cough and flu that I initially thought was due to the haze because we have haze in Singapore now because of the situation in Johor. I'm not sure if it's resolved, but the haze came in from Johor. So my sinus got triggered. They developed into cough and flu, and I had to go and see the doctor. So I basically spent the whole week just resting, but I also did my nails. So you can see I went for this shade of brown that I'm not sure if I've done before, but it remind me of chocolate fondue. So yeah, but this part is a little bit chipped off already. But anyway, yeah. So I did my nails. I just rested the whole weekend, the whole week. Sorry, where I didn't do much. But what I did actually do was to on Monday was my fourth lesson of my masterclass, which is into its third cohort now, and I guess it was one that I enjoy because we talk a lot about how we can plan our content accordingly and using the 135 method. So taking a content and distributing it across newsletter, social media, TikTok, Instagram, whatever platform you're on, LinkedIn as well. So that was the fun part of the conversation. And then on Tuesday, while sick, I did a Q&A with my followers, which I put it up on my stand store, and then I promoted it on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. So there were 9 people that signed up, but only three turned up. Only three showed up on the Google Meet. There was a fourth one, but she dropped off halfway, without saying anything. But it's okay. I guess I will always talk to people who want help. And it was a fun Q&A because the first person she had questions about her podcast. She had over 20K subscribers on her podcast, but she didn't have the sponsorship. Like she was aiming to get brands to sponsor her podcast, but she didn't find any, and she has a hard time finding them. So my advice to her was to change up the way she does her podcast, look at where the deeps or the where people drop off in terms of a podcast on YouTube. So that could be probably a reason why, and also to shorten her podcast, which is a bit of a trend now because if you have heard what Colin and Samuel said, what they have noticed is that podcast now tends to be like 10 minutes to 15 minutes long, and yes, podcasts that are an hour long or 2 hours long, like Chris Williamson or Stephen Bartlett's podcast, The Diary of a CEO, will continue to be that long and continue to be popular. But I think for the rest of us, podcast now needs to be shorter. And I'll talk a little bit about my podcast later, but I just want to finish up on the Q&A first. So that was my advice to her. And then the second person, she wanted my advice on how she can show up as her authentic self in her workplace. And this is something that I've always shared, I've constantly shared as well. How to, let your employees know that your employers know that you have side hustles, side gigs, and how do you bring that in without interfering your work and showing the authentic side of you. And that was a great question because I told her that your colleagues don't just see one side of you, your colleagues see different sides of you as well. And to show up as your authentic self, that takes a lot of courage, that takes time, patience. And if you show yourself to your colleagues, then that is where they will get to see a different very side of you. And whoever doesn't like you doesn't like you. That let's put it that way. So if you want to put on a mask, then That's that's what people like you for the mass. But if you want to show up your authentic self, then you need to be able to come on, come to work or come or show up authentically as yourself, online, offline, whatever. So that's my advice to her. And the third person that I had on the Q&A, I've known him for a while. He came on the podcast, Raphael, and he made a surprising announcement, which is he was going to pivot into writing a book. He's a DI consultant, and now he's going to write a book where he will be writing about sci-fi, science fiction, and he's very shy, so he doesn't like to show up online. He doesn't want to become a creator or influencer. And his question to me was, how does he continue to do that while writing his book? And my answer to that was that he needs an audience ultimately to sell the book and to sell the book too. Sorry. And one of the things that I brought to his attention was that you need to create a demand first before you sell it. And if he doesn't want to be online where he's posting things or building his personal brand, then he needs to be in the communities. This could be the sci-fi communities on Reddit, it could be the sci-fi communities on Substack, which is where he's getting into as well, which is what he wants to do, where he will be able to write his behind the scenes of his writing process, because he does everything by pen and paper, which is incredible. He doesn't type, he doesn't use any form of digital devices to write his book. So he's gonna document how he writes uh 400, 400 pages on pen and paper, which I think is credible. And my advice to him as a Substack user myself is to continue showing that process on Substack, writing about the process on Substack, but at the same time, build the demand for the book, create a wait list, bring the paper in, build before you sell. And once he's printed the book, once he's able to publish the book, then the demand will be there to buy the book. So yeah, I think that was three very varied people that came on the Q&A, which is why I enjoy doing it. So going back to the podcast, one of the things this year that I'm going to start doing, and I met these guys a few weeks ago, actually towards the end of last year. No, correction. So I met these people in January, early part of January, and they are a production firm, camera production, kind of photography studio, and they have not opened up their studio to public usage. So they have been doing a lot of work with their own clients. So now what they want to do is to promote their own space. So they are bringing people who are podcasters, who are video producers to come and use their space for free. And at the same time, they're going to be asking us to promote them on social media, like give them a shout out. So I'm looking at doing maybe 2 to 3 sessions with them. So you might be seeing, if you have watched my podcast, then you might be seeing a different setup, a different environment, just for that few sessions. I don't know how long this arrangement will continue, but I guess we will see, because they don't throw in the editing as well. When I use Sportster, for example, they film for me, they produce for me, and they edit for me. But here at this studio, this new studio that I'm going to experiment using, the editing part is a separate cost. So, long term what that will look like, I don't know, but I'm going to try it out first. At the same time, one of my friends who is a videographer for a lot of the content creators out there, who helps a lot of founders, entrepreneurs. I went to his media studio opening last week, and he has this voucher that he is allowing people to use, like me, to go in there and film one episode or film whatever I want. So I might start using that as well. Yeah. So yeah, that is what is upcoming for the podcast. And I guess one of my episodes in the future will be talking to the drag queen Sammy Zhen. And if you haven't watched Sammy's story, it's now on Netflix. It's called Good Cha. And I was watching it last week and I started crying because it's about his story as being a drag queen and going back to help his mother who has Alzheimer's. And through that, exploring his own identity, helping his family come to terms with identity. There were a lot of tears, there were a lot of joy as well. But I guess the the show really spoke to me. So you haven't watched it, it's on Netflix now. It's called A Good Child. Yeah, that's all from me this week. I don't really have much to share because I've been sick the whole week. So yeah, stay tuned to this channel, subscribe. My latest podcast is out with Andy Chua, so if you haven't watched that yet, you can watch that. And I will release more episodes in the upcoming weeks. See ya!